Well, as some of you guessed in the comment section of my last video, and I'm not sure how you guessed, you guys are geniuses, we added a few new family members. Yes, there's more than one. In this video, I'll introduce you to them, tell you how we found them, the very special thing about them, which was the biggest influence for me to bring them home, how long they've been here, and how it's going. It's an interesting story, especially since we had no intention at all of adding anybody to the family. I'll also tell you how the current family members are taking it, what they think about it, and I have a question at the end of the video for those of you who are experienced with these kinds of family members, because there's an issue that I haven't dealt with before and I could use some advice on it. So stay tuned. And welcome, I'm Autumn Beckman and I'm here to help you live your most luxurious life within your budget. I post new videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of those, and so you don't miss my daily community posts where I share the best sales of the day and fabulous handbags that I find. Also, don't miss my website, autumnbeckman.com. That's where I have things for sale such as handbags and small goods, as well as my planner pages such as the My Handbag Collection Organizer, the heart of which is the item tracker page. Here's the front and the back. That's where you can track everything you'd want to know about your handbags and small goods. I also have new calendar pages and lots of other pages coming soon, as well as an advent calendar. So I will have all that linked below in the description box. So if you're not already familiar with my family, Roxy is this beautiful little girl. She's a mix that we got from Rescue. She is poodle. We did a DNA test on her. Half poodle, and then dachshund, chihuahua, and miniature pinscher. And we got her in 2019, so we've had her for 5 years. Then there's Baron, a dachshund from the same rescue. This was All Texas Dachshund Rescue down in Texas. We got him in 2014, so we've had him for 10 years. He's super sweet and cuddly and the best little guy. And my African gray parrot, Vincent, I got her when she was an egg in the year 2000. So she's now 24 years old, which is about half of her lifespan. So in a recent video, a few of you commented that you heard some squeaking or different noises in the background. And in my previous video, which is the one after that one, I brought that up and I told you I would tell you more about what those noises were. It was a combination of Vincent, my bird who's in the other room, and construction that was happening in the apartment as I was filming. So for those of you who may not know, at the beginning of September of this year, we switched apartments. We moved to a larger unit that had just been renovated. It had been totally gutted and completely renovated. And once we moved to this new apartment, I got Vincent a new cage. It's the same size and the same cage as her old one, but a different color. It's a light gray. The old one was black. And this one has wheels. The old one used to have wheels, but when we relocated up to Oregon from Texas, the wheels broke during the move, which made it very difficult to move the cage to be able to clean underneath it and around it. So I wanted to replace it with a new cage, make it easier on us, and with a color that works better for this apartment. So the question then was what to do with the old cage. The easiest thing would be to have broken it down and just put it in the dumpster. But I really didn't want to be that wasteful. I really wanted another bird to be able to use it. So we have an avian vet near us, and my husband, Paul, called them because they also do avian boarding to see if they could use the cage. They said no, but they recommended a bird shop up in Portland, which we didn't even know about. So he called them, they said they would be happy to take it. So we cleaned it up, put it in the car, took it up there to donate it to them. And of course, while we were there, I love birds. So we go in, they have like 4 rooms full of birds. They're just packed with cages. Everything from finches and canaries and parakeets all the way up to macaws and everything in between. Several African grays, lorikeets, lovebirds, conures, all kinds of birds. And as we're looking around, I came across this cage which had a note on the top of it. And this note is the reason we have these new family members now. It said, "We should go to a new home together, and in the cage we're used to. The blue girl has limited sight, and the yellow and green boy helps her around, and it's important that she be able to navigate to eat and drink." And in that cage were these guys, and they are our new family members. They had names before, but they were definitely not attached to them, so I have renamed them after trees of the Pacific Northwest. The blue girl is named Maple, and the yellow and green boy is named Cedar. And of course, what drew me to them is that Maple has impaired vision, and that Cedar helps her out and makes sure that she's okay and she's able to get food and water and all that. And I thought that was just the sweetest thing. And I also knew that when you have animals that have any kind of issue, that it's more difficult for them to be adopted out. And that was verified by the staff that I talked to, who said they had been there since July. It's now November. And that several people had been interested in them, but once they found out about her eyesight, they changed their minds. If it had just been me and I didn't live with another human, I would have taken them home that day. But since I do live with another human and I respect that human, I definitely wanted to go home and have conversations about it first, see what they thought about it, what Paul thought about it, and really go through all the pros and cons of adding these two birds. Parakeets, if I didn't already say that, or if it's not obvious to anybody. I actually went back and forth several times about whether to bring them home or not. I ended up taking 2 weeks to make a decision, partly because I really wanted to think it out because I didn't plan to bring any more animals in the home, and so it was kind of impulsive, and I didn't want to make the decision impulsively. You never want to do that when it comes to an animal. But also, that first week that I had just met them, it was maybe the day before this happened, my mom was here visiting. So I didn't want to bring new animals in the home when she's here, especially in my office where she was going to be sleeping and moving around, and it wouldn't be the normal routine. And then the following week, we had some construction going on in the apartment, which you heard some of in that one video. So being this newly renovated apartment, there were still some things that weren't done because some of the materials were on back order. We haven't had blinds on any of the windows until last week. We had to put like sheets up so people couldn't see in. We didn't have bathroom mirrors until last week. So all that was being done. Plus one of the doors was being rehung to swing the opposite direction. Anyway, I didn't want to bring animals in with all that happening either. But I definitely kept thinking about them. I could not get them off my mind. And then on Halloween, I was scrolling through Facebook and I had already followed this bird shop there. And they posted a couple of pictures inviting people to come for Halloween because they had a bowl of candy for the kids. They posted pictures feeding the birds pumpkin guts, is what they called them. And of the 100 or so birds that they have, they featured, I think, 3 birds is all. And one of them was Maple. And when I saw the picture, my reaction in my head was, oh, it's my girl. And then I thought, okay, yeah, they're my birds. I'm already thinking of them that way. So the very next day, I went and picked them up. They rode home in this little cardboard box, and that's so they'd be in a safe little container. They wouldn't have to hold on to the side of the cage while it's jostling around. I had them in a dog bed on the passenger seat next to me and on top of a blanket so it would be nice and secure. And it had holes punched in it, of course, so they could breathe. And they came with the cage they were in and everything inside of it. So the bowls, the perches, the toys. And that's because with Maple's low eyesight, she already knows her way around the cage and she knows what's in there. So she needs to have exactly the same environment so she can navigate and find her food and water. They now live in my office. That will be their permanent location. They're in a little corner where they have windows on both sides, so they're able to see out some, but there's also a wall behind them. So they do have that sense of security where they're not surrounded by nature and possibly scary things, possible predators. Now, I have never had a blind bird before or a bird with low vision, so I wasn't completely sure how to navigate this. I am still learning. So what I've been doing is a lot of observing them to see how they interact with each other, how she gets around, how he behaves with her, and vice versa. That first night, I saw that she had made her way up to a swing that's in the cage, and he was sitting on the perch right below her. And I thought, well, that is a little iffy. I feel like it might be difficult for her to get off the swing safely if she can't see much. And when I woke up the next morning, I uncovered the cage. I have a big blanket over it at night. And actually, I have the blanket over it now to see if that would keep them more quiet during the video, and it's working, so that's a good thing. But she was still on the swing in the morning, and I was wondering, do I need to help her get off of it? And I was thinking about, I used to be a teacher. I've dealt with all kinds of people who need different accommodations. And I was thinking maybe I need to get a little finger light, and that way I could put my finger in front of her and she would see that there's something there, and I could teach her to step onto my finger to get down. But But not long after that, she got down on her own just fine, and it turns out that's their sleeping positions. Every night she sleeps on the swing, and he sleeps on the perch right under her. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen him on the swing. It might just be her swing. And this first day that I was observing them, I was very impressed with her because she really knows her way around, and she moves very quickly when she knows where she's going. She has this certain pathway that she takes. It's basically a loop around the cage. They have this perch that's right under the swing, and that's where they tend to sit. And they even have certain positions that they sit in. She tends to sit on the top branch, and he tends to sit on the branch below her or next to her, but down a little bit. I get the sense she's kind of the alpha bird in this situation. But from that branch, she climbs around the side of the cage to get to the food bowl. And when she's done eating, she hops onto the side of the cage again, and she goes over to this one particular perch. And then usually she runs across it really fast and jumps on the side of the cage at the back and then goes up to that top perch again. Sometimes she'll stop for water. And you know how with humans who can't see that well and they're out in the world in an environment that's unfamiliar, they might use a cane to help them determine what's in front of them. Obviously, she can't hold a cane, so what she does is she uses her head to feel things out. She sometimes looks like she's trying to look around, but I don't know how much she can see. I get the impression that her vision is very, very limited. It seems like she can see a little bit, but probably not much at all. I forgot to tell you this. When they were at the bird store, I ended up going there about 3 different times to see them before I brought them home. Every time I went, there was this toy hanging in the corner of her cage that was a Chinese takeout container, and it's full of shredder things like crinkled paper and other stuff. This container had been chewed open where it was sitting sideways, and she was sitting in it, or laying in it really, and using it as a nest. So I never saw her before I brought her home. I never saw her in a perch. She was just laying there the whole time. And I had some concerns about that and her not getting enough exercise and all, so I talked to the people at the bird shop about it, and we decided to go ahead and take that away. So when she got here, she didn't have it anymore, and she would need to use the perches and be more active. And that's worked out really well, but I did see her on that first day go to the corner where that container had been and use her head to look around for it. And she looked for a few minutes for it. And I think she finally figured out it's not there anymore. So like I said, she crawls around the cage. She does fly a little bit here and there, but that's pretty rare. Whereas Cedar, he flies everywhere. He almost never crawls. So he's always flitting about when he's going from place to place. And I just caught the tail end of this, but she has started grabbing a perch and holding on really tight and flapping her wings to stretch them and get some exercise there since she doesn't fly a lot. And I mentioned that she seems to be the alpha bird. Cedar just follows Maple's lead. He does whatever she does. If she goes down to the food bowl to eat, he's right there behind her going down to the food bowl to eat. They have a little paper toy next to their top branch. If she goes and plays with it, he goes and plays with it. And neither of these birds are tame, which means if I put my fingers up to them, they're not going to hop on my finger. In fact, Cedar flies away because he's nervous about what I'm doing. Maple doesn't fly away because she doesn't know my fingers are there. And I haven't tried touching her yet because I've only had them not even a week. It'll be a week tomorrow that I brought them home. So I'm trying to do things pretty slow with them, especially considering her vision. I want to learn about them first before I start sticking my hand in the cage too much and possibly freaking her out. Because I did freak her out earlier this week. I will tell you about that in a minute. But I have never tamed birds before, so I was watching videos on that before I brought them home. And the technique I kept seeing was to take spray millet, which is like dessert to them. And when you go into their cage, unless I'm getting their food and water bowls out to clean them and give them fresh stuff, when I stick my hand in their cage, they need to learn to associate that with something positive, like giving them a treat. Well, of course, Cedar flies away, but then I put the millet right up to Maple's beak, and she figured it out immediately that it was millet and delicious, so she started eating it. And then as soon as Cedar saw that, he runs down and he's like, "Ooh, I want some too." And I mentioned that their cage came with bowls and perches and things. I want to switch out almost all of that because there are better things for them than what is in there now. And the bowls that they had were plastic. And I wanted that to be the first thing I replaced because stainless steel is better in terms of cleanliness because the plastic can hold on to bacteria. And birds, especially really small birds like this, they can get sick from all kinds of things, and you don't know it until it's too late in most cases, because they're really good at hiding symptoms. So I did go ahead and switch out their bowls with stainless steel bowls, and Cedar saw them, of course, and saw that his food was down there. So he wanted to go eat. He was obviously hungry, but he would not go near the bowl. He got kind of close, but he would not go into it because he was scared of it because it was new, which is not uncommon bird behavior. But Maple's not scared of it because she can't see it. So she just navigated down as if nothing had changed. She stepped onto the new bowl, and I could tell that she could tell it was different. This was something that I had not anticipated, just something that didn't occur to me, that just putting her bowl in the same place, I knew she'd be able to find it, but I didn't think about how when she touched it, it would feel different to her and that would affect her. So she was a little startled by that, but she figured it out really quickly. She's super mellow, like not much phases her, and she's obviously very smart and figures things out quickly. So as soon as she started eating from the new bowl, he started eating from it too. And there was a little perch next to that bowl that was very tiny. It was really too thin for their feet. Even though they're little birds, birds tend to have kind of big feet. So they needed something with a little more diameter. So I found a straight dowel perch, and then it has a loop on the end with a bowl inside, in addition to the seed diet that they were already on, and I was starting to mix pellets into that and try to wean them over to a pellet diet, which is more nutritious. I also wanted to have a separate little bowl for fresh vegetables. So I got that perch, I put it in the same place as the original perch, again, not realizing that would freak her out a little bit because it felt a whole lot different on her foot, but she got used to it really quickly. And I think on day 2, they found the little bowl with the vegetables because, you know, Cedar, he can see it, but he's not going near it if it's new. He's going to wait for her to do it first. It's like she's his guinea pig. So they've been eating the vegetables, which I'm really happy about. And she even started pulling the bowl up, trying to knock it over today. She's mischievous. And I went a little overboard. The same day that I put those new bowls in and that perch, I got a natural wood perch, because the cage has these 2 long dowel perches that probably came with the cage, and those are some of the worst perches for birds' feet because they're just straight and they're all the same width, and birds in nature are used to tree branches that vary in width, and it's better for their feet when they have more natural branches. So I took this branch. I knew that she knew how to get to one of the dowel branches. That's the one that she uses to get from the food bowl and then navigate up back to that top perch. So I put the new branch right in front of that on her path, thinking, oh, she'll just go over there and go down and she'll figure it out and it'll be the same thing. But of course, it was a much different thickness and it didn't go straight. It went a few different directions, and that freaked her out. She got very lost at that point. She kind of got lost in the whole cage from that. So that was too much for her, at least with all the other new things too. So I've learned that I need to only change one thing at a time, give her some time to get used to that before I change something else. She did finally figure out that she could sit on that perch, but she still wasn't figuring out how to navigate. So as soon as she got off that perch, I removed it so that she could get back to her usual order of things. I still do want to replace those 2 perches, so I will at some point. I might want to replace the swing and put a little bigger one so maybe Cedar can get on it with her too. I want to add a bird bath, so we're going to see how that goes. It's on its way now. It hangs on the side of the cage, so that'll be interesting. And I want to add new toys. I just have to be really careful about where I put them. And again, just add one new thing at a time because I don't want her to get lost in her home. I also want to have them be able to come out of the cage and fly around the room, stretch their wings, but I'm not sure yet how that's going to work. I think I need to have them finger tame first so that, because she won't know where she's going. Cedar would be able to see and fly around and go home. He'd be fine. But I feel like she will crash into things. I may need to have some little play area on the wall or hanging or something to put her. I don't know. I haven't figured this out yet. If you have ideas, let me know. But they do need to be finger tame first so that when she lands somewhere and can't figure out how to get home, that she'll get on my fingers and I can take her home. And that'll also build her trust with me too. Cedar, oh my gosh, the boy is such a chatterbox. He talks pretty much nonstop. I'm amazed that with the cage covered right now that he's not talking. The last video that I put up, I had the parakeets here, and you may be able to hear them chirping in a few places. It was sort of frustrating. I know with Vincent, she'll whistle sometimes and I just stop and repeat myself in the video. I'm really conscious of that because I've had people before say that it really bothers them to hear some of her whistles, which is understandable. And oh my gosh, Cedar was talking through pretty much the entire last video. I was like, oh no, is this going to be my life now? This seems to be working, so that's good for me, and then I'll uncover them as soon as the video's over. One thing I noticed that I've never seen a bird do, and I've been around a lot of birds in my life, is Cedar would go to the side of the cage and rub his head on the bars. I know that birds will preen each other, especially their heads, because they can't reach their own head to preen with their beak. So their partner, or one of the other birds they're around, will preen, and I had not seen Maple preening Cedar's head. So I was thinking, well, maybe that's just not something she does, probably because of her vision. She can't see him to be able to do that. So he does this, and isn't that interesting? Well, then today I saw her preening his head, so it does happen. Maybe just not often enough for his liking. Another thing I've noticed between them, and I haven't completely figured this out, so if you have ideas on this, let me know. Cedar and Maple tend to sit side by side. They don't touch, but they'll sit very close to each other. And Cedar tends to follow Maple around. So he'll sit there and then he'll like go over and nip at her. And then pull away real quick, because as soon as he nips at her, she usually nips back at him like, stop it. And I thought at first he's picking on her, but I've seen a few patterns in that behavior. I think one reason he does it is if he goes away from her or she goes away from him and then they meet up again, that he does that to let her know that he's there because she can't see him. So that's nice of him. Other times I've seen him do it to get her to move somewhere. Maybe she's on the side of the cage about to get on a perch and she's not moving, so he'll nip her like, and he's not biting her, he's just touching her, like poking her with his beak. He'll do that to get her to, get on the perch. And she seems to know what to do when he does that. It's a way that he seems to take care of her. But then other times he just seems to be picking on her. And the poor thing, sometimes they'll be side by side and he will nip at her like that. And she can't see him to know where he is to nip, because he knows that she's gonna nip right back. So he does it and then he like runs away a little bit. And she'll nip out totally in a different direction from where he is, because she just can't see him. But sometimes she gets him. And some of you are wondering, well, what are the current family members thinking about them? How about Vincent? What does Vincent think of the parakeets? Well, Vincent and the parakeets have not met yet, because as one of you guessed, I don't know how, do you have spy cameras in my room that you knew this was happening? One of you said, when you were guessing what the squeaky noises were in the first video, you're like, you got Vincent a friend and they're in your office quarantining. And that's exactly what's going on. Except I don't know how much of friends they'll be. But the parakeets are in my office, their permanent location, but they're also in here quarantining from Vincent. They have been around a bunch of different birds. That bird shop also boards birds, so there are birds that come in and out. And again, birds are susceptible to all kinds of things, and you usually don't know if they have something until it's too late. So they'll be quarantined for about a month, and after that, I'll start bringing Vincent in here, because in addition to the new cage, I also got her this cool new perch stand. So she'll be able to get on that and come in here, and I'll start them out on opposite sides of the room and then move them closer depending on how well they do. So everybody will get to be in here. But even though they haven't met yet, they can hear each other, and they've been talking to each other a lot. And I think you can hear that in this little clip. Cedar especially gets excited when he hears Vincent whistle, and he just perks up and starts lots of whistling. He wants to talk. Maple talks some, but not nearly as much. So Cedar really likes it when he's got somebody to talk to. Cedar even talks in his sleep. I saw this today. He's turned around in a sleeping position and he was chattering the whole time. Aaron, on the other hand, who's very chill and mellow, he discovered the birds the other day. He's like, hey, cool, I see you later. He doesn't care at all. But Roxy is fascinated with them, just like she is with Vincent. She loves birds. She doesn't want to eat them. She wants to play with them. And of course she won't be able to play with the parakeets because she would hurt them. And she doesn't play with Vincent. But she wants to play, and she wants to boss Vincent around. She loves to try to put Vincent in her place. If Vincent's walking around on the floor, Roxy will go up to her, "You're not supposed to be here." But she never tries to hurt her or anything. With the parakeets, she just gets really excited when they make a lot of noise, especially if Cedar's flying around, which makes noise, and the movement. And she'll run over to their cage and look up, and she just really likes them. Now, at the beginning of the video, I said that I could use some advice from those of you who are experienced with birds. I'm experienced with birds, but there's this one issue with Maple, not the vision issue, that I've never dealt with before, so I don't know what the best thing to do is. These two birds are very bonded to the point that they are breeders, so she lays eggs. The reason that she was in that little Chinese food box at the pet shop is because she had laid eggs and she was sitting on them. They told me that she tends to, after a while, get off the eggs and leave them, and so they're not viable. And they would put little dummy eggs in so that she wouldn't lay more, because if you continually lay eggs, it can cause health issues. But where's the balance of having her nesting all the time, just laying there, and getting exercise? So that's one of the things we were talking about at the pet shop. They weren't really sure either, so we figured let's take that thing away, the nesting box, and see what happens. Well, day 2 or so that she was here, she was sitting way up at the top of the cage on the swing, and she laid an egg. It fell to the bottom and crashed and opened. I do not want baby birds. I do not want her laying eggs. I do not want her nesting. So the first step is just to observe and see what happens. See if, with no nesting material, will she start laying again? If she does start laying continually, do I need to put another kind of nesting box in there for her so that she can sit on eggs instead of laying eggs? And I would put dummy eggs in because we're not having baby birds. So if any of you have dealt with that, let me know what you think. What's your experience with that, with trying to prevent a bird from laying eggs? I would appreciate it. And I can say all the back and forth that I was doing on making the decision of whether to bring these guys home, I'm so glad I did. I've been so happy since they've been here. I really enjoy having them in here and watching them. I love that Cedar is such a chatterbox, because one of the things I love most about parakeets is the noises they make. I've always loved them since I was a kid. I've had maybe 5 parakeets total in my lifetime, and now these 2. So I'm pretty familiar with parakeets, and I really enjoy them. So I'm glad they're here. It's a good decision. So thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this. I know it's very different content from what I usually do, but I knew that a lot of you would like to know and would enjoy hearing about these guys and seeing the little video clips. So thank you. Hope to see you back here next time, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.